Hello, everyone. I'm Cristina Anastasio with AARP New Jersey. I want to welcome you to another AARP New Jersey Fraud Friday. We're continuing to have important discussions on frauds and scams, especially as scammers continue to take advantage of people's heightened sense of fear and anxiety during the coronavirus pandemic. Today, we're joined with a special guest, Greg Botti. Greg is the United States Postal Inspector who has investigated a variety of criminal matters, including revenue fraud, mail fraud, and identity theft. The Postal Inspection Service enforces over 200 federal statutes related to crimes that involve the postal system and its employees and customers. If it has anything to do with preserving safety, security, and integrity of the nation's mail system from criminal misuse, they do it. Postal inspectors are federal law enforcement officers who carry firearms, make arrests, and execute federal search warrants and serve subpoenas. Thank you so much, Greg, for joining us today. We're so pleased to have you provide answers to some of our questions and share tips for our viewers.
Hello, Cristina. It's great to be here with you today. And I'd like to say good afternoon to everyone listening into the live stream. And I'm happy to be here.
Great. So today we're going to focus on how you can take important steps to protect your wallet. We'll share tips and resources on how you can stay safe from frauds and scams, and we'll address your questions. For more information, you can always visit aarp.org/NJ-FIGHTS-FRAUD. We'd like to make this an interactive event today, so just remember you can always ask a question of our guests in our comments section, and we'll take it live today on the call. So again, you can write in the comments section at any time during the live stream. So this is your opportunity to learn, ask questions, and get your answers. So Greg, you've had a lot of experience dealing with investment fraud. Could you share some information on the newest ways scammers are trying to get you to invest your hard-earned money?
Sure. With scammers are often offering online promotions on different platforms. It may be social media. There could be claims that the product or services of public traded companies can prevent, detect, or cure COVID-19, and that the stock of some of these companies will dramatically increase in value as a result. Some of the promotions are self-titled as research reports, and they make predictions of a specific target price, and they relate to certain micro-cap stocks or very low-price stocks issued by the smallest companies that have very limited public availability to the information.
Thanks, Greg. So can you give tips on how to spot an investment scam and maybe a specific example of an investment scam that you've dealt with?
Sure. With some of the red flags, as we call them, of investment fraud, if you have a promoter or a financial advisor or broker who's going to guarantee performance on an investment, that's something that really can't be done. No one can predict the market or the stock market. It's volatile. The prices changed every day. So how can they guarantee that for you? You also have to be careful with who you're dealing with when you may enter in these types of transactions. Oftentimes, the person may not be registered with the proper securities regulatory agency, whether it's through the state or whether it's through the Securities and Exchange Commission. So be careful who you're dealing with. Also, if you're involved in an investment and you're getting the same or very consistent returns each month or each quarter, that may be another question to ask is how come, I'm getting whatever it is, $100 or $500 every quarter or every month. That's just too consistent. Another thing is complex strategies. When you're having these discussions with a financial professional, are they talking to you in language that you understand and that makes sense? Or are they, kind of talking in this language that you don't understand and it's overly sophisticated or complicated strategy? When you get documents or you're reviewing your monthly statements, take a look. Are all the documents there? Are there any missing pages or stuff like that? Also, review your accounts and look for discrepancies. Is there money that's missing? Maybe there's a $5,000 or $20,000 withdrawal that you didn't authorize. So kind of take a look and be familiar with your statements. And also be aware of pushy or aggressive salespeople who say you have to act now If you don't act today, then someone else is going to get that deal and you'll lose out. And we always have that saying, and it's true. If it's too good to be true, then it probably is.
And you know what, Greg, I've said that time and time again on these videos. If it's too good to be true, you have to be wary of it. You have to double check. You have to be vigilant. So thanks so much for that information. Before we move on to our next question, I just want to remind all our viewers that this is interactive, a conversation. And if you'd like to ask a question of the U.S. Postal Inspector, Greg Botti, please leave your question in the comment section. So Greg, due to the pandemic, more and more people are staying home and becoming socially isolated. Has this led to more romance scams? Could you share for our viewers what are the signs of a romance scam and how can someone avoid falling victim to it?
Yes. So unfortunately, with internet, social media, and dating websites, they're a perfect opportunity for the scammers, as we've been referring to them, to trick susceptible Americans or people into different romantic relationships. And some of these scammers, they're going to pretend they're interested in you. And over the course of time, they'll build a rapport, mostly through email, maybe through photos and different social media apps. And then at some point, they say they're overseas, whether they're in the military or a teacher or something, and they need you to send cash or money orders or a check so they can come meet you, or they may have some kind of emergency. Whether it's a medical emergency, some kind of family emergency. Now with the pandemic, we've seen that attributed to as well as, oh, myself or a family member have been, affected by coronavirus. We need you to help me so I can, eventually come see you. And at that point, they want the money to cover their expenses. And sadly, none of the stories are true. And like we just talked about, everyone's, been kind of socially isolated, trying to protect themselves and keep themselves safe. We want that connection to the outside world, someone to care about us. And unfortunately, that's how we've seen people become victims of the romance scams.
Absolutely. And I've been hearing the romance scams during coronavirus. People are saying, oh, I can't come visit you because, I'm in quarantine or I'm in a state with restrictions, but, I'm having this health emergency. Can you send me money? So we know, a lot of these common scams that we see, when we're not in a pandemic are now being kind of repackaged for the current atmosphere and the current time. So we also know that.
And I think the scammers have just used.
So the coronavirus.
I think, like you said, the scammers have just used.
Sorry, Greg. I know I'm having a little bit of a glitch I'm having a little bit of a glitch on my end. Go ahead.
And like you said, with the coronavirus, the scammers have just been using that to their benefit in so many ways that we're going to, continue to discuss to get money from people.
Absolutely. And, that really brings us to our next question, which is, with this whole new set of scams that's been created, what should New Jerseyans be aware of? What are some of the most prevalent coronavirus scams impacting consumers?
So there's a number of them, and I'll cover, 2 or 3 just to give everyone kind of a sense of some of them that are out there to be aware of. One of the first ones I think that is important is fake cures. So some websites are offering vaccine kits from the World Health Organization or some other legitimate sounding agency that only cost a small amount and usually enough to cover the shipping fee. But the consumers are asked to enter their credit card number onto the website. Be aware that there's currently no legitimate COVID-19 vaccine cures that are currently being distributed, to the public. Another one that we've heard about and it's kind of become a household acronym is PPE, or personal protective equipment, which includes like your face masks, your gloves, some different types of sanitizers and stuff like that. But scammers are creating fake shops, websites, social media accounts, and email addresses where they're claiming that they have these medical supplies that are in high demand. And like we said, surgical masks, disinfectant wipes. And when the consumer tries to purchase the items through the channels, the fraudster will take your order. They may give you, an invoice number, a fake tracking number where the item's going to be shipped, but they'll take your money and they never provide the promised supplies. So the takeaway here is only purchase personal protective equipment, PPE, or medical supplies from reputable vendors or websites. And before you make any purchase, go ahead and research the vendor or the website and take a look for any fraud complaints or other customer reports before you make that purchase. And one last one to talk about as well is there's some medical providers. So we see malicious actors are contacting people mostly by phone or email and pretending to be doctors or hospitals. And they're saying, they've treated a friend of yours for COVID-19 and they're demanding payment now for that treatment. We've seen other scammers pretend to represent the Red Cross and sell COVID-19 test kits door to door. The Red Cross confirmed that it's not instructing victims to visit people in their homes. Medical providers are also obtaining patient information for COVID-19 testing in some cases or based on allegations, and then using that information to fraudulently bill for other procedures. So something else to be just cognizant of.
Those are great tips. That's very useful information for all consumers to be aware of. So we also know that New Jersey has hundreds and thousands of small business owners, and we know that the inspection service has been urging the public and business owners to be on the lookout for scams related to the CARES Act and the Payroll Protection Program. Could you share with our viewers what they should be looking out for?
So the Payroll Protection Program, which is sponsored under the CARES Act and by the Small Business Administration, that'd be for small businesses to get payroll employees and there's certain obligations. But some pointers there is you're never going to have to pay money to apply for a Payroll Protection Program loan. In fact, you won't have to pay with a money order to receive payroll protection loan money at all. There's a lot of what we call imposters out there who claim to offer free government grants, but they charge you money to apply. And always check with the trusted government agencies to confirm whether they have CARES Act funding in place and to make sure that you can go to different websites and review forms and all the criteria for that, rather than someone who may solicit you through an inappropriate channel.
Absolutely. Be wary. You want to make sure you're verifying and checking with these agencies before moving forward. I think that's great advice. Thanks. So Greg, we talked a lot about specific types of coronavirus scams today. Could you share some general best practices and tips on how to spot and avoid a scam? These are great tips when we're in a pandemic and when we're not. So I really think our viewers would appreciate any of that guidance.
Yes, absolutely. So some tips to protect yourself from coronavirus related scams is, we just touched on it, but there's no cure of treatment. Be aware of offers for vaccines, pills, potions, lotions, or other products that claim to cure or treat coronavirus or COVID-19. We call these kind of medical quackery type scams. Number two, be aware of charity scams. Only contribute to established organizations and ones that you feel comfortable making a donation to based on research, your past history. Number three, don't click on links in emails. Never click on links in emails from sources you don't know, especially those who claim to be from Centers for Disease Control or the World Health Organization. That's the CDC or WHO. Number four, and in relation to any type of scam, don't give financial information or personal information to anyone you don't know or you don't trust. Your bank, your credit card companies, they have all that information on file. So they're not going to call you or send you an email asking for that information again. Number five, Resist pressure. Don't be pressured into making immediate financial decisions. Take the information, ask them to, mail you the information. Take time to discuss it with a family member or friend who you trust and can give you sound advice. Which brings us into number 6. Know who you can trust. Consult with trusted family or friends. For number 7, check your caller ID. Technology makes it easy for scammers to fake caller ID information, so the name and number you see may not always be real. If someone calls asking for money or for personal information, hang up. If you think the caller might be telling the truth, call back to a number you know is genuine. And number 8, always be skeptical about free trial offers. Before you agree to a free trial, research the company and their cancellation policy. And that's where we say you really need to read the fine print or have someone help you read the fine print. And it's important to review your monthly statements for your credit card, for your bank account, to make sure that the charges on there that you recognize. And number 9, hang up on calls. If you answer the phone and you hear that recorded sales pitch or whatever it is, hang up and report it. Don't press 1 to speak with a person or to be taken off the list. That could just lead to more calls and to continue you being harassed by these unwanted phone calls.
Thank you so much, Greg. I know that, when we're in this heightened emotional state from the pandemic, it's easy to fall victim to a lot of these scams. So I think that a lot of your tips talk about, stepping back, verifying information, just taking a moment. Don't do anything when you're, stressed or scared. Just take a moment and step back and try to figure out, what's the best course of action here and what makes the most sense. So, Greg, before we wrap up our Facebook Live today, is there anything else you'd like to share with our viewers?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Before we wrap up today, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our viewers today?
Sure. So we talked a lot about prevention tips and some of the different schemes that out there that we're seeing. What happens if you're the victim of a fraud? How do you report it? We think one of the most important things to do is to file a report with your local police or with the Postal Inspection Service. If it's a false loan that was entered into your name or a credit card that was opened, advise the credit bureaus of your situation and place a fraud alert on your accounts. There's 3 credit bureaus. There's Experian, there's Equifax or TransUnion. Your credit report and go the information that's on there to make sure it's items that you opened and not ones that were opened under your identity. Like we said, if it's a lost or stolen credit card, notify your credit card issuer. If you've had an issue with your checking account or checks or any banking transfers, alert your banks. And it's important to organize your case as well. Take notes who you spoke with at that bank. If you got solicitations through the mail or email, create a pile, put that all together. So this way, if it's reviewed by the police or whatever agency, you have a roadmap for them to document how you've lost money. And if you have internet access, you can always report fraud on the Postal Inspector's website at www.uspis.gov. Or you can call our fraud hotline. That's 1-877-876-2455. And when it comes to, you can say fraud.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Greg, for this informative discussion. And thank you all for continuing to stay on top of the latest scams in New Jersey. For our viewers, if you're concerned you've been scammed, you can always reach out to a trained AARP volunteer on the Fraud Watch Network helpline at 877-908-3360. Again, that's 877-908-3360. After our conversation, you'll also be able to find a recording of this Facebook Live at www.aarp.org/njfightsfraud. Again, that's www.aarp.org/njfightsfraud. We hope you learned something new about how you can stay safe from frauds and scams, especially during the coronavirus pandemic. Thank you so much and have a great day.